Oops.
Are we on?
Is that you?
G'day, Al. How you doing?
Good, mate. G'day, viewers.
Just talk amongst yourselves.
Okay.
Right.
Al and I and a couple of other guys go to the pub every now and then, and we just talk about stuff.
Yeah, a bunch of guys, a regular group, we call it pub night. We talk about the big issues, politics, relationships, healthcare sometimes.
Yeah. Ideas, and sometimes our wives. Oh, what do we call it?
Unreal. Pub night, yeah. So
One thing that keeps coming up is placebo. We have talked more about placebo than just about anyone, I believe. So the question is, Al, what is placebo?
So I think we're probably all familiar with the term, and maybe the definition up here on screen isn't terribly enlightening unless you go away and think about it. But think about a placebo this way. A placebo is a thing that acts on the body, but acts on the body through the mind. So it's using the power of the mind to affect our health and our well-being. As you can see, placebos come in all kinds of shapes and sizes. They can be creams, lotions, pills, injections. Some surgery can be a placebo. And even some practitioners will specialise in placebo therapy. And they can be very effective. In many cases, they're more effective than common drugs.
Now,
Is that what you're looking for?
we've all got our favourite placebos. So everybody knows somebody who swears by their pill of choice, which definitely wards off flus and colds and all sorts of things. And they don't care about the research. They know it works, and they don't want to know that it doesn't work.
Yeah, good garlic,
There's all
echinacea,
vitamin C.
C.
Let's not kill everyone's placebos, but one of my favourite placebos is demonstrated here by Henry. Henry is reasonably good at climbing trees, but every now and then he hits the deck. And what does he want? Elbow, knee, he wants a kiss. Mum or dad, give me a kiss, presto, magic, it's all better. For me, that is the most beautiful example of placebo. It's powerful, it's real, and where's the next slide?
Yeah.
So, Al, why does placebo have such a bad reputation?
We talk about this at Pub Night a lot, we think placebos have a bad reputation because they're used all the time by the pharmaceutical industry to test drugs against. And they use placebos as a baseline, something that's meant to have no effect, in order to test the drug to see if the drug is better than the placebo. The problem with that is that the research is very clear. Placebos really do work. They do have an effect, and they have a different effect from person to person and setting to setting. So the other problem with that is it teaches us all that placebos don't have an effect, right? If you're testing something against a placebo because the placebo has no effect, perception is wrong. Placebos do work. You did that.
I know, I'm getting good at this. Tip for the next speakers.
Unfortunately, placebo has an evil cousin. The evil cousin is called a nocebo. Tell us about that, Miles.
Okay, so nocebo isn't that much a part of our talk, but it's really cool. So the concept is the placebo makes you better, the nocebo makes you worse. So it's connected to the curses and all sorts of things that really do happen. My favourite story, written up recently, New Scientist, go and check it out. Okay, so we've got a guy who's involved in a clinical trial of antidepressants. Things go well for a time, then go badly. He decides one night to scull 29 of his tablets. He is in trouble. He gets rushed to emergency, he loses 6 litres of fluid, his heart rate has dropped, the doctors don't know what to do.
He's gone now.
He's in trouble. They contact the doctor who ran the clinical trial. We need to know what the hell this guy's taken so we can try to revive him. Doctor replies, he's in the control group. He took 29 sugar pills. This information goes back to the patient. You've taken 29 sugar pills. 15 minutes later, the patient's slightly embarrassed, feeling great.
That's a placebo. So,
how do we design a good placebo, Al?
well, yeah, all the time we've been using placebos kind of accidentally. We shouldn't be doing that. We should be actually designing better placebos that work as effectively as the medicines we try. One of our biggest gurus, I guess, is a guy called Dan Ariely.
We love Dan.
He's a behavioural economist, and he's done some research into how placebos work, and even better, how we can make them work better. So this very fancy-looking bar chart here, and my head's in the way of the key here, but basically, what Dan did was he tested 2 kinds of placebo. One's very generic and comes in really cheap packaging, and when you give it to somebody, you say, oh, it's 20% off, and you can take as many as you like because they're really cheap. Right? And this is the effect when that placebo is used to deaden pain. Right? Over here these placebos are progressively more expensive and come in very fancy packaging, and the person delivering the placebo says, you know, you should go very carefully with these because they're really powerful and strong. So you can see the difference more than doubled. So we need expensive placebos that are very fancy packaged.
Take home message, when it comes to placebo, you get what you pay for. Al, tell us about the new AMA guidelines.
Yeah, every time we talk about placebo, something new has changed. There's a very rapidly evolving scene. And just recently, the AMA, unfortunately not the Australian Medical Association, the American Medical Association, has actually come out with guidelines for GPs, because they found that GPs are commonly prescribing placebos, right? So,
what do they say, Al?
What they say is hell yes. So in America, it's now cool. So if a GP thinks that a placebo is the best thing for you, and your GP's how to talk to you about how placebos work and how they might help and how you might get prescribed them, go nuts.
Okay. Now we get to the idea. Okay, so we've talked to you about what we've learned at the pub from Dan and others. Here's our idea. Now we very seriously believe that from our reading, placebo is probably one of the greatest drugs that humankind has ever stumbled upon, and it's absolutely mad that Western medicine ignores it. And so the issue that's thrown up quite legitimately by people in the health profession is that you should not lie to your patients. So a doctor should not lie to those that they are treating.
Some of the hiptastic oath.
Yeah. Anyway, we think that's a good point, but we think that's relatively easy to get around. Okay, so what we're proposing is the placebo consent form. So I rock up to my GP, day one, I've moved into my new suburb, he or she presents me with a form, and I sign away. If at any point in time in the distant future I'm in trouble and you believe that the best treatment for me would be a placebo, don't tell me about it, just prescribe it. Go for it, give me the script, let me go to my chemist, let me go to the Flipsel Tipsel Tide packet on the shelf that's very expensive, and let me put it on my Medicare card and go home and get well. Because really that's what doctors are there for, to make us well.
It's about the outcomes, right? It doesn't really matter how we get there. So lucky for you guys, we skimmed through a lot of stuff tonight to pack this all into 8 minutes, and we couldn't quite print out a consent form for everybody here tonight. But here's where you can go and download your own copy of the consent form, edit it, use it as you will, have a sit down, nice chat with your GP, and see how you go. There's also a bunch of research that we skimmed through really quickly tonight. There's a lot more. It's a really interesting developing field. So take a look at that URL if you can make a note of that as well. And finally, the whole presentation is available on SlideShare for you. So thanks very much for your time. You've been great.
Thank you very much.